Hello everyone, good afternoon. I am Shamayan Khade and on behalf of the Brainalytics team and our title partners Avaya India, we welcome you all and thank you for being a part of our roundtable CX Impact DigiTalks Series 2, Digital Transformation in CX. Before we start the roundtable, there are a few guidelines that I would like to highlight and make everyone aware of, requesting all the attendees to be on mute when the speakers are taking their sessions. There would be a Q&A after each session where the attendees can ask questions, if any, to the speakers. The guidelines for it are raise your hand, unmute yourself, turn on your video. You can introduce yourself and then put your question to the speaker you want to. To start with, I would like to introduce our title partner, Avaya India. Businesses are built on the experiences they provide, and every day, millions of those experiences are built by Avaya. For 100 years, they have enabled organizations around the globe to win by creating intelligent communication experiences for customers and employees. Avaya builds open, converged, and innovative solutions to enhance and simplify communications and collaborations in cloud, on premise, or hybrid of both. To grow your business, they are committed to innovation, partnership, and a relentless focus on what's next. They are the technology company you trust to help you deliver experiences that matter. Now, to start our first session, I would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Badri N. He's Sales Engineer, Avaya India. Over to you, Badri.
Thanks, Sharmain. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm just going to run you through a brief presentation which I've prepared. It's mainly to give an in-depth as to what constitutes a contact center and what are the areas of improvement and how we can help you, achieve that objective. So I'll just share my screen. Just give me a second. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. So where we come from is customer support. Right? Customer support is very critical for any organization. So you might have an excellent product, but unless you back it up with a great customer support, you'll not have repeat customers or you'll not have new customers. The revenue goes down. So customer support is as critical as having a good product. And one of the main channels for customer support is contact center. So unless you have a good contact center, you cannot give a good customer support and consequently the business, you cannot get a good business. So contact center is very critical in any organization. And that is the main, point of entry for any customer to connect with the company. That's the gateway, you can say. And how do customers prefer to reach a contact center? So they basically want to make a call. That's been the traditional way. It's all voice based. But now with the new generation coming in, they're more into mobiles and mobile apps and all of that. So they're more comfortable with social channels, more comfortable with something like a WhatsApp, right? More comfortable with going on a website and doing a chat or getting the FAQs, right? So this is how the trend has been. Although voice is still dominant, and I'm sure voice will be there for some time. It's not going to go away. But having said that, we still need to give multiple options for customers. It is up to their preference whether they want to keep voice. I mean, they want to reach you through voice or through other channels as well. And that's where the contact center industry is also heading towards, right? I just want to give you about a brief about what constitutes a contact center, right? What are the main pillars of any contact center? And this is irrespective of the industry or the domain in which companies are playing in. Number one is customer experience, which is the main priority for any contact center, right? Unless the customer is happy, he gets quality information, he gets his issues addressed on time, he's not going to be happy and he's not going to come back. And he will not recommend that company to his friends and his colleagues, right? Or his relatives. So customer experience is very, very critical. And good customer experience can be provided only by having the employees giving the right experience, right? Employees should get the right experience. They should get all the information that they need. They should get sufficient breaks, right? And they should get proper training. So all of this is very important. If a good employee will give a good customer experience. So these two go hand in hand. Automation is the third pillar, if you ask me, because you can give a good customer experience and good employee experience, uh, which can be supported by great automation. Automation helps you cut costs, helps relieve employees, right? I mean, you don't have your agents handle all the standard queries, which can be addressed through bots, right? So automation is the third pillar in any contact center. The fourth one is analysis. So unless you do a proper analysis of your contact center, how is your contact center performing? How are the agents performing? How satisfied are the customers? Or calls, getting or calls or interactions getting handled properly, or they're getting abandoned, right? How is my automation working out? Are interactions still going to the agents, or many of them are getting terminated in the automation layer itself? So all of this has to be done through analysis. Analysis is the fourth pillar and very critical too. So this is what generally in any contact center you go, these are the main four pillars, right? And I'll just give you an example of this. Traditional contact center, a customer calls in. I mean, he goes through a maze of IVR options, right? He's got an emergency. He wants to quickly reach a person, but he's not able to. He has to go through a range of IVR options. Press one, press two. He keeps entering some information, and then he finally gets an option to reach an agent, but he doesn't immediately reach an agent. He's made to wait. Please wait in queue. I mean, for an agent to become available. He gets really frustrated, and by the time the call goes to an agent, customer is already frustrated. The employee, he gets no information about the customer, so he starts welcoming the customer from the scratch and then asks him for all the information. So this adds up to increased frustration from the customer perspective, and the employee is indifferent. He doesn't have information about the customer. He's not empowered enough. So this is a challenge in any traditional contact center that we have. So if you see, customer experience goes for a toss. Employees indifferent. He doesn't know about the customer, so you can't blame him for that. Maybe he's not got sufficient breaks as well. And automation is non-existent. Automation here is basically the IVR, which gives the press one, press two options. And there is no analysis happening here. So how could you make it different, right? So customer calls, you identify the customer, right? And you proactively ask him, are you calling for this particular issue? I mean, you made this purchase. Is this a query or this call regarding that particular purchase, right? And the customer says yes. And then you ask him, what is the issue? I mean, it can be a speech-based self-service, or it can even be a touchstone based IVR, which can give these options. You can, there'll be certain predefined options only. So you can give those options to the customer, and then you can select one of them. And then the call can be immediately transferred to the right skilled agent. And before the call goes to an agent, all of the information about that particular customer's recent purchase is given to the agent. Agent is empowered. He knows everything about the customer, and he can address the customer properly. He can take help from his seniors if required and address the issue. So this, if you see, I mean, it gives a great customer experience, and the employee experience is also good because he has got all the information that he needs. So the goal of any contact center should be to enhance the customer experience and employee experience and improve the analysis and automation. If we're able to achieve this, the contact center is going to give a great, uh, service to the customers. And how can we do that, right? How can you do that? Customers experience, right? How do you enhance the customer experience? If you give the customer multiple options to reach you, I mean, you need not restrict to making a phone call. Customer can be given WhatsApp as a channel to reach out. It can be given chat as a channel, right? It can be, given chat as a channel on the website as well as mobile app, right? You
which
can
actually is
proactively.
powering to give us that experience. And not only that, if we double click on the
Sorry, was there a question somewhere? Okay, I'll continue. So you give the customer multiple channels to reach you. And then even in a voice-based contact center, we have something called callback. So if the agents are busy, they're overworked, customers are not able to reach agents, take the call, give a callback option to the customer and then drop the call. So customer uh, can just leave a request, you can drop, and then the system, whenever an agent becomes available, can make a call back. So in this way, the customer doesn't need to endlessly wait in queue, and he gets a call back. So this results in a good customer experience. Next is quick identification. I mean, the identification process should be smooth, collect basic information, and then identify him. You authenticate him. Seamless authentication is the next one. So identification, authentication go hand in hand. We can have multiple options like, OTP based authentication, right? Or uh, collect some date of birth. So these information can be quickly collected, and identification authentication has to be done quickly. Next one is resolution. That is the most important part. I mean, any customer calls up a contact center, he needs some information or he needs some issue resolution. So resolution is very critical. Uh, he cannot be, endlessly waiting for his issue to get addressed, right? So the agent should be empowered to give at least some kind of resolution to the customer. And if he's not able to, he should be able to get help from his seniors and support the customer. So quick resolution is another important parameter. And proactive notifications is like even before the customer calls back. I mean, he's raised an issue and he doesn't know if the issue is resolved, he calls back. So you avoid that by giving proactive notifications. Once an issue reaches some stage, keep sending notifications to the customer. Right? So these are some of the ways where we can improve the customer experience. Employee experience, how do we do that? I mean, we give all the customer information to the employee upfront, right? Everything about his service history, his purchase history, what are his previous interactions, all of that information you give it to him. You give him access to a knowledge base which can give him the right set of articles. So based on the issue at hand, suppose the customer is called for a credit card related issue, you present him the relevant articles so that they can address that particular issue without spending too much of time, or checking with multiple people, right? So knowledge base is another important thing that can be given. Sentiment, emotion details. So I mean, system can, if the system can identify the customer is happy or he's angry, those sentiments can be presented to the agent, and he would know that he has to change the course of the interaction, right? How he handles the customer. And prompting is, this is a pretty old technology wherein you give some scripts to the agents what to say. So depending on the topic, it'll give you a set of questions that can be asked to the customer to get more information. So these are the ways, some of the ways where we can increase the employee experience. Automation is basically self-service. So we need to identify what are the main issues which customers are calling for, and then I mean decide on the options which can be automated, right? So automation can be achieved through chatbots or an IVR, a DTMF, traditional DTMF IVR also can do some automation. We can have speech bots where callers can speak their options. System identifies, understands what they're saying, and then goes and fetches the relevant information, or then or transfers the call to an agent. So either ways. So speech bots. Digital deflection is something which many customers are looking at. Instead of having a voice agent answer a routine query, we can deflect the call, hold it on the IVR, deflect the call to alternate channels like SMS or web forms, and then the interaction can carry forward from there. You don't need to spend money having an agent handling those kind of routine queries. So digital deflection is something which many customers are looking at, and that is part of the broader digital transformation strategy. So in addition to your bots, digital deflection also is a very important part of digital strategy of any organization. Proactive notifications and reminders is uh, very similar to what I told you about, wherein instead of the customers calling into the contact center calls up the customer. For example, some appointment is due. It just calls him up and checks with him whether he's going to take up that appointment or no, right? So that is just one example. Or his payment reminders. So many of these kind of options can be automated through proactive notifications. So this is automation in a nutshell. I mean, more or less, if you look at any contact center, these are the broad ways in which automation can be achieved. And finally, analysis. This is very, very, critical for any contact center. You need to know how the contact center is performing. So productive reports is one way of identifying whether all the calls or all the interactions are handled properly, the agents are staffed properly, right? There are no call or interaction abandons. So we check all of that using the productivity reports. Post interaction surveys to get the mood of the customer, how the call was handled, right? So they can get a survey done and understand the customer's pulse. How was the interaction with the contact center? How was the agent? Was the issue resolved? Like kind of stuff. Quality monitoring is more from, uh, I mean, agent, perspective, right? How the agent is handling the particular call. How is he addressing the customer? Is he using the right words? Is any inappropriate language being used? So all of this is checked through quality monitoring and recording. An extension to that, speech analytics. With quality monitoring, you cannot check each and every call. You cannot listen to each and every call to find out if the agents are using the right language. That's where speech analytics comes in. Speech analytics can uh, analyze each and every word that is spoken in the contact center, and it gives word-based or content-based trends. Which words are trending up? Which words are trending down? Right? What are the major issues that are being discussed about? So all of this is provided by speech analytics. So you get a complete, it's a gold mine of customer information, which you can get through speech analytics. And it's actually the voice of the customer, right? So speech analytics is something which is gaining traction, and many customers are paying attention to that. Text analytics is for the digital channels. The way speech analytics can analyze voice, text analytics can analyze the chat interactions, right? And your email interactions. These can be analyzed through text analytics. And finally, compliance, whether, this is mainly for work from home kind of agents, uh, whether they're handling things appropriately, they're not accessing the wrong applications. What applications are they spending more time on? Those kind of information can be go through compliance. Compliance is nothing but desktop analytics, right? So these are the ways in which we can address each of those pillars. And the good news is uh, we can help you with all of this. And Ava has got solutions for all of each of this component. So we have a CC solution which can handle all the channels. We can enhance it using our IVR platform, which is omni-channel. It handles not only voice, it handles email, it handles SMS channels as well. Then we have uh, an amazing workforce engagement solution, which can not only do recording and QM, we can even do speech analytics, text analytics, workforce management, all of these things. And this platform can not only be used by contact center agents, it can also be used for your internal employees. It can be used as an enterprise telephony setup as well, right? So this is an omni-channel platform that we have, and this platform can be hosted on the cloud also. And we are providing this cloud-based offering for our customers now. We call that in IP. This is a partner-hosted solution that we have. So we provide contact center. We also have enterprise telephony, which is hosted on this. And we have many applications which you give it as a SaaS, software as a service. Like we have something called a case management, which is a mini CRM. We give you knowledge base, call billing. So all of this is given as SaaS based. So this is something which we offer now, and it's piqued a lot of customers' interest, and we are getting a lot of traction with this particular solution. Moving on, uh, I think I've covered most of what happens in the contact center. I just wanted to cover on this collaboration piece, workplace collaboration. So collaboration is basically enterprise, your employees collaborating with one another. So what are the various options for collaborations? One is calling. They can call each other. Then they can chat with each other. They might want to share some content, some files, right? They want to get into quick audio or video conference. They might want to share some files. They want to check the availability of the other employee, right? So all of this, if you ask me, constitutes collaboration. And I mean, any organization, this will hold good. And we have the solution which can give all of this. And it's a cloud hosted solution. It's called Avaya Spaces. So we enable HD video calling. Uh, Employees can chat and they can, chat with each other. They can do content sharing. The audio video conference can be recorded, right? We also give task management option called task management, wherein you can create a space, create a room, invite the people into that room, and you can allocate tasks to the people. So task management is another thing which can be given here in Spaces. We have phone dial-in as well. So somebody's in a remote location and they don't have internet access, they can dial into the meetings. Personal cloud rooms is each and every individual can create their own rooms. So in this case, we have created one, but we call that as spaces. So we are also currently in one space, right? We're all in one space, which is a personal cloud, nothing but a cloud room. And this spaces application can be accessed from mobile as well. So we have a mobile app as well, right? And the most important part of this is this can be integrated with your enterprise Avaya system. It can work as an extension to you. So like a hard phone, this calling functionality can be embedded within the spaces. So the employee doesn't need to move away. He can do all of these things from one single interface. He can chat with his teammates. He can get into a quick audio video call, right? He can share files. The meetings can be recorded. He can invite people to the uh, personal rooms and do the collaboration. And the best part is the chat messages, right? They're persistent. So any member of the space can come in and you can see all the past messages as well, right? So all of this functionality is provided in Spaces. The best part is we give 1,000 party meeting as well nowadays. So an individual can host up to 1,000 people in one single room. They can do audio video conference and they can see 61 parties in the thumbnail views. The 61 party is something very unique, which nobody in the industry is giving currently. I'll move on to another important endpoint of ours. So this is called CU360. It's a collaboration endpoint, which is Android based. The beauty of this video endpoint is that since it's Android based, you can install any collaboration app on it, right? And you can join that particular meeting. Suppose somebody has got a Teams call or a Zoom call. We just need to install Zoom app or Teams app into CU360. And from any room system, they can directly join that particular, any room, they can directly join that particular meeting. So, and it doesn't need any LAN connectivity. I mean, though that is also there, it can wirelessly connect to any network. So that gives you a lot of flexibility. This is very, very good for small huddle rooms. We can also give this for medium-sized rooms with additional cameras connected to it. And this is a really, I mean, a lot of customers have shown interest in that particular product, and it's going really well in the market. So, yeah, this is all I had. I just wanted to cover some user stories. I mean, use cases. Uh, this is one of our largest e-commerce customers, and they have a lot of sales during festivals, and those times they have tremendous amount of call volume, and the existing number of agents are not able to handle those calls. So what we have done is this callback, which I spoke about, right? We use callback for those customers. We take the calls, and then we give a message saying we'll call you back. And during off-peak hours, callback is made to the customers. We also send SMS to them with a link to web forms where they can go and do self-service, right? So this has really made a difference to this particular customer. The other thing that we have done for this particular customer is segmentation. So proper segmentation, right? Kind of we identify the type of query or the issue and send it to the right skilled agents so that the customer doesn't need to make any repeat calls. We do that for this customer, and it's been taken really well. And we also use an intelligent routing platform, routing engine to identify the right outsourced contact centers to send the calls to. Right, so they have a set of in-house and outsourced contact centers, but if the in-house agents are busy or they are specialized to handle certain set of queries, the system identifies, this query needs to be handled by the other system, other outsources, and it routes it to the outsources appropriately. So this is something which we have done for this customer, and it's a huge contact center that they have, and they're a happy customer of ours. Uh, this is one of our fintech customers, uh, wherein they had a specific requirement about agent not being able to see the customer's number because they are a fintech company. They didn't want the agents to get the customer's number. It could lead to misuse. And here we had done this number masking so that when the call comes to the agent, he doesn't see the number of the customer. This was a critical requirement of theirs. Uh, the other thing is automation, so which I spoke about, proactive notification, right? Instead of customers making repeat calls, the system makes calls to them and tells them about the failed transactions. So suppose they're doing a mobile transaction, it has failed. The customer doesn't need to call and find out if the transaction is failed. System makes automatic call and then says that this transaction is failed, or it's in progress. We'll get back to you, kind of stuff. So that is something that we have achieved here for this customer. This one is the FMCG. So this ties with the CU360 endpoint which I showed. So uh, after the pandemic, companies employees have started returning back. But when they come back, it's a hybrid workplace. Not all employees are going to work from office. Some will be at home. So in that case, they need to use some cloud-based collaboration platform like Teams or Spaces or Zoom. So the existing video endpoints in the rooms are not uh, equipped to connect to these cloud-based platforms, and that's where this particular customer had a big issue. And we could solve that customer's issue by giving us U360 with a HC050, which is our camera, right? And the customer is very happy, and he's already rolling out this particular solution to multiple of his branches, right? So this is all I had. So I can take questions.
Do we have questions for Badri? We'll begin the panel discussion now and maybe take questions if there are any for you in the end. Is that okay?
Sure.
Fine. So moving forward to our panel discussion, we have an interesting discussion on digital innovation, identifying and embracing new technologies to elevate CX. I would like to invite our speakers. We have Muzaffar Hussain, he's founder and CEO with Aprophy. We have Siddharth Venkatraman, he is head e-commerce and digital marketing for TVS Eurogrip. We have Smarak Rath, director central operation and customer services with QMAT. We have Mohit Mathur, vice president, business excellence and customer experience with Vedantu. Naresh Khanduri, Vice President, Digital Customer Experience with Capgemini. And finally, we have Sandeep Prakash. He is VP and Head Strategic Sales and Customer Success India with CData. I would now request our panel moderator, Bhavesh Vora, Sales Engineering Leader, Avaya India, to take it from here. Over to you, Bhavesh.
Yeah. Thank you, Shamin, and thank you, Badri, for that interesting perspective of a particular business of contact center. A very warm welcome to all my fellow panelists. I once again welcome you. Uh, Shamin, that was a quick introduction, but I would request, when the speaker speaks, please introduce themselves in a little bit more detail, and the current role, what you're doing, who do you identify as a customer? I know some of them briefly. I know all the panelists come from a very diverse industry spectrum. They have very rich experience in doing, digital transformation projects for customer experience improvement or employee, and a very strong customer focus. So without much delay, let's start. I think I would like to start with Mr. Siddharth first. Mr.
Yeah,
Siddharth, yeah. So, I think the first point, since the theme is about customer experience and how digital transformation innovation helps there, and you come from a very interesting company, TVS tires and e-commerce. Not sure how e-commerce works in that particular domain, but last week I was, there's an article released in Forbes which says, which talks about top 5 trends in customer experience in 2022. While we know all it is a very Western centric approach, things in India are different, but the number one thing they mention is, omni-channel engagement, and that is what I want to start with. I think it's a buzzword, but
Yeah.
omni-channel engagement starts with digital channels. Badri touched upon it very briefly. We have seen digital channels help reduce cost, and then you have a lot of silos channels, and eventually it merges into omni-channel. So from your perspective, you will also like to hear some interesting use cases, and I would request other panelists also to share some use cases, because that is where we learn maximum, because stories is the story which you have implemented or come across is what we would like to hear. Over to Siddharth, if you can touch upon that point to start with.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Bhavesh. Uh, just to introduce myself, I'm Siddharth and currently working with TVS Eurogrip, which is a brand of TVS Sri Chakra. So I was having a chat with Bhavesh a couple of days back, and I was mentioning to him that whether by choice or by chance, it's happened that I've worked in organizations where probably digital experience or digital transformation in itself is probably seen as a cost center and not seen as something which is going to contribute to a profit or to aid in customer retention or the experience. So, but then I would say that over the last 2 to 3 over the last 2 to 3 of my jobs, it ranges from something which has been in construction equipment to something which is a extreme low involvement category, which is a two-wheeler tire. So, what has traditionally happened is digital has always been seen as a good to have and not really a must have in most of these industries. So, a typical example I would probably look at is few years back when I was with one of the organizations where their uh, product has been construction and mining equipment. The predominant thought process is that it's a typical B2B kind of a selling. And also, even if you take the lower end of that spectrum, it's about contractors and drivers and all these kind of people whom people believe do not really come and do the discovery process online. And also, the other thing is that most of them have this preset notion that when we talk about digital, it is only about the initial touch and not about how do you really retain them or how do you really service them. So now, if you really take the current example of tires, right? I would say probably 6 or 7 years back, I think a two-wheeler tire is something that so when predominantly it was all tube type tires, we all would have had the experience where we would have taken our two-wheeler to a mechanic shop, and then the mechanic will say, we need to change the tire, and we will say, no, you please set the same thing right. Or worst case scenario, that guy will say, uh, to me at least, he's told that, uh, dude, your own tire, I think this is the seventh patch I'm sticking on the tube, so please change it. And the next minute, what you do is, okay, please change it. So from there, what it transpired into was people started looking for at least the tire prices online, where they used to probably go online and search for what are the tires available, and then they will probably go and argue with their mechanic partners or friends. From there, today, if you actually look at it, especially even in such a low involvement category as a bike tire, the number of people who are actually using social channels to probably raise a complaint, or people actually thinking of warranty claims, or people thinking of replacement of a tire by reaching out to a brand by saying that, hey, the tire you gave me was not up to the mark, has tremendously increased. So digital omni-channel especially and digital experience has uh, become a must across the various uh, segments of the customer journey, right from a discovery phase where people are going online, either be it for looking for a new tire, or looking for how do I raise a complaint with this tire brand, to helping them in their selection process, to actually getting it fitted. So, in fact, just about 6 months back, we have been piloting a process just in Delhi where people can select their tire online and get it fitted at their doorstep. Okay. So, plus, we have also launched our online warranty scheme where people can just register for their warranty online, and through our online system, they can do all their claims just by clicking a picture and sending it across to us. Now, the very critical element, which probably when we are looking at as an omni-channel uh, marketing or a omni-channel customer experience, the biggest challenge which most of these organizations encounter and needs to be looked at is how do we really measure it? Because that has become a very gray area. So measurement systems for customer experience, especially in a category as dispersed as probably a tire, where I don't even know who's my end customer. I may know my distributor, and I may know my retailer. How do I reach to my end customer? How do I get their contact details and stay in touch with them? Though I'm sure that the next time they're going to do a repeat purchase is probably 2 years away. Okay, has become such a very uh, vital element. So we've started very clearly looking at various areas where probably probably few years back, digital marketing's role ended with just search, SEO, search ads, or how many people are clicking on my ad. And then you will have your sales team talking about sales numbers, and then your service team talking about how quick they service them. Today, our customer experience, especially even in our category, has become very critical that we are measuring the turnaround time on how fast. So very critically, we implemented a live chat 6 7 months back. So live chat is not any rocket science, but then that has helped us reduce our turnaround time from 3 days to 1 hour, where we were able to get our service team to talk to the customer and appease them whether we are able to give them a replacement or not. Likewise, we have an application selector where we say, hey, tire, now that you're interested in researching online, it's not that it's not just a commodity where you just take some tire and fit it into any bike. So how do you really help them select that? And e-commerce has become, be it even including marketplaces, where I'll tell you. So to be very honest, we have people asking us, who are those people who come and buy tire online? I think they must be crazy. Okay, even within our own organizations, we have some senior folks who come and ask us, I want to look at that persona of that person. Who's that guy who's coming and buying a tire online when they can go and buy it in a shop near them? So I would say that the turnaround time for service, the ability with which they are able to find information with ease on the website. Where again, when we say website, I think it's now that people have started moving even in a segment like ours, or even in a segment which I mentioned, which is a construction equipment, where websites were seen only as a corporate asset, where you put your investor related documents and move on. Whereas while for e-commerce or retail companies, websites became a major source of sales long time back, these organizations have also realized that it cannot just be a dormant asset, and how personalized you can give them the solution. How can you help them select a product? And at the same time, I would say that, just for an example, there are certain competition brands where if I want to, in our category, where if you want to really reach out for a service issue, you will never be able to determine how do I reach out to the brand. There's no way you can reach out to them. They make it so complicated. And we've realized that that's going to be our differentiator. Okay. And we made service as simple as possible to reach out to us and to get their uh, products analyzed, and then if required given the change. So Omnichannel, I would say, in terms of customer experience, even in non-traditional businesses where digital is not native, has become so critical that organizations have started investing in them. And to add on, obviously, when I say customer experience, the contact center comes into play, where contact centers have become such an important touch point that we've started investing in training those resources, even if they are somewhere sitting outside our own organization. And how do you really look at low attrition in your partner call center, in your partner contact center? And all these kind of things have become such critical elements that I think customer experience omni-channel, unless is very strong, I think most brands are going to lose it and are not going to really move forward in it. Though I would say that this is not like an immediate game changer for any brand. So even if you take our own brand, we setting up a complete digital customer experience, omni-channel experience is not going to be a game changer today, but 2 3 years down the line, I think that's going to be the absolute differentiating factor.
Yeah, I think thank you so much, Siddharth. Very insightful. Because now it makes me think, because two things in my car. Yeah, everybody knows, which vehicle he owns, which model. And second thing, I think most of us know which is the battery we have. Now I think with this omni-channel and digital engagement, people will even remember which tires they own. I think that a lot of people don't know. And I'd realized last time when I went, that I did not have the all the four tires were not of the same company. So I think that's a very interesting insight. Definitely, it helps. Does anybody else like to add any point on this? There are many more things on customer experience. If anybody wants to add something, it's fine. We can make it a little bit interactive also. Otherwise, I want to go to the next second extreme. There are a lot of things on customer experience, but I would like to go towards the employee experience as well. So let me do one thing. Let me just talk about the other end. I think 2 years we have been in the pandemic. Uh, Personally, from Avaya, I have been supporting, my team has been supporting a lot of customers to help them work from home, across verticals, whether it is contact center or large IT organization, manufacturing plants. It was a mammoth challenge. It was relatively easier for smaller startups, but for larger companies, right, everything from arranging computers to the home, arranging broadband, a network, good internet connection, getting them collaboration tools effectively was really a challenge. So I think let's go. I would like to now call Mr. Muzaffar. You know, I think he's from Aprify startup. If you can explain some of his challenges and how they manage, typically, specifically around employee collaboration tools, because unless employees are empowered really, really well, I don't think we can really serve the customers. So, Mr. Muzaffar, if you're there, what technology you use, how you do, if you can share some of your thoughts on that point.
Bhavesh, I think Muzaffar Hussain has dropped off. There was a power outage in their area since yesterday,
Oh,
so
okay,
I
okay,
believe
okay.
his devices were not charged, and that is why he did join. But I think all his devices went out just before this, so I think he's dropped off.
Okay. Well, some of the perils of work from home, I think
Yeah.
while everything is there, you also need power. Broadband alone is not enough. Okay, fine. Uh, okay, then let me, since we are talking about the pandemic period, I think, and digital transformation Badri touched upon, I think IDC has identified multiple pillars of digital transformation. And 2 years ago, before the pandemic started, I think the Amazon AWS CEO made a comment that while there are multiple clouds, you have public cloud, you have applications on cloud, you have hybrid cloud, private cloud. If you see infrastructure as a service, only 3% of the world's top enterprises have put everything on public cloud. So there is a huge growth over there. Business applications have moved to cloud. But in the pandemic, we have seen, from our own engagement, a lot of customers have moved to cloud. So I think, Mr. Sandeep, I would like to, invite you now. If you can share some of the experiences, the specific customers in India, what is their journey, how they're moving to cloud within your own company, specifically from the cloud perspective, because that has been the biggest disruptor.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Bhavesh. Good to meet everyone.
Yeah.
Just a quick couple lines on what I do, so that everything that I say kind of makes contextual sense to my background and credentials. Through my career, my involvement have been something which is close to customer success, account management, and customer experience across stints and across domains, across regions as well. So I will probably bring in a little bit of diversity of domains and regions and geographies in my answers and my inputs as well as I speak along. And right now, as we're at, I manage customer success and regional sales for a data connectivity platform called CData. So most of my answers would be around connected data and connected customer experience, and cloud has been a you know key pivot of transformation. I'm sure each one on the panel over here as well as audience probably kind of have heard enough of cloud adoption, and those who have adopted and those who are probably not, and for strong reasons of themselves as well. But at the same point of time, keeping the tab on what Bhavish kind of started out with in a pandemic stricken remote world. Need not only be pandemic which strikes for you to go remote. For that matter, remote has become the default mode of working for a lot of people, and does afford companies a lot more flexibility in hiring anywhere, serving a customer anywhere. I've known of customer agents who've gone off on holidays and still be on work. Workations used to be only for the more business centering or the coding and developer ecosystem, but it has touched across the board, and that has been possible only because of cloud. If you needed to be plugged in, if you needed to be wired at all times to a local server, to machines and devices and systems which are kind of decentralized to your work desks, where every work desk has your name, and thus every system and every mobile and every application has to have your name on it. Then we would have been in a different world altogether, because customer is not like that. We've got to follow the customer, right? Like, you cannot ask the customer to call from the same number every time. Used to be time. I mean, I'm sure each one here can probably think 6 years ago, when if you called from a non-registered customers, the experience in any contact center or any channel kind of became convoluted, or 10x convoluted, not even just simply couple of steps more. But now it's not the case anymore. So there are workflows kind of created where so where if you're not calling from a register number or a register ID, you can still recognize the customer across the board. And that is how a customer behaves. And brands and enterprises moving to cloud are trying to replicate how a customer behaves. You don't need to be at that particular system, at that particular work desk, and on that particular application only to support a customer. You can be anywhere. All you need is get that line up and running with your cloud infrastructure. So we're a big proponent, and I've been personally to a big proponent, but at the same point of time, it's not that both professionally as well as personally I haven't been on-prem systems, and where costs and scales are of importance, and high availability and control of the infrastructure is an important aspect. Other infrastructure models haven't been approached. Hybrid models are still in vogue and may remain as a necessity in many people's lives. But from a connected customer experience perspective, brands and enterprises need to kind of follow how the customer is going. Um, and, and and cloud is just one infrastructure way, right? Like, connected customer experience is also equally about each of your applications kind of tying together. I think Siddharth kind of did touch on aspects coming from a conventional industry. I've personally worked with government organizations, even an army organization of a different country, and a huge logistics and oil and gas organizations, etc., where there are small steps being taken in trying to we speak also of uniform experience, and uniform has gone on to a personalized one. Now we're trying to stitch them together, right? Like, because you don't want to serve the customer the same way on a call as you may want to serve them on web or mobile app, or when he visits a branch for that matter. I'm sure Siddharth will appreciate customer experience is equally about not just the e-commerce, but also when he visits a franchisee store, or if there is company owned store. So there is, when you crisscross unified with personalized experiences, when you get kind of connected experience, which is personalized to the customer, but also unique to the channel that it exists, or you are interacting with a customer. And that all kind of comes together and makes it a lot more easier on a cloud ecosystem.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thanks, Siddharth. Siddharth, Sandeep, I'll come back to you. I would like to know, Mr. Naresh, if you have any pointers on customer experience, if you want, you can start with that. I would like to invite you. And I also have a question for you. Maybe you can elaborate while we touched upon customer experience. There's a lot of buzzword of Badri spoke about automation. We heard some examples, use of artificial intelligence, ML, machine learning. Are these buzzwords or are they really happening in some organizations? Some of the solutions I know, they are incorporating in a very, very nascent stage. If you can talk about some of these things from a customer experience, employee experience, or how measurements are being taken, from a customer experience perspective. If you can touch upon those things from a Capgemini, I'm sure it's a super major IT consulting company. We're doing fantastic, super large projects for large corporations, giving them fabulous customer experience. Would love to hear from some of your experiences and what you're doing over there.
Thanks a lot, Bhavish, for that question.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm Naresh Kanduri. I lead digital customer experience team for Capgemini from India. So, in our definition of customer experience, is not only at the contact center, although that is a higher touch
yeah,
point. I think Siddharth briefly talked of it. We talk of this in a kind of a portfolio. So it starts from marketing, goes up to sales, comes up to commerce, goes into the service. Services where the maximum disruption happens most probably because the interconnections are not easy. So somebody floats a promotion when you go to a e-commerce channel. Sometimes that is not in line because marketing team is working on their own data set, and then whole of the journey that we say across these channels becomes very very disconnected. Not when we say channel, we don't mean just the mobile device and a web and a kiosk and an online store. I mean, these are though omni channel, we always talk about that, but our point is across the systems, across the functions, experience has to be consistent. Now, how do you keep that? You need to put a lot of technology behind that. Obviously, cloud and all that help us in scaling it, but that's lesser relevant versus saying, okay, how do we measure it? Now, and I think that briefly touched on it that while in India it will become important and it is becoming important in North America, Europe, where we have been dealing with the customers, everything is centered around experience. You can lose a customer if you call a call center, and I think Badri briefly touched on it. After waiting for 2 minutes, if call center rep still ask you, "Good morning, what can I do for you?" Well, I already punched everything. Why are you asking me all this again? Right? I mean, and that's probably the last time this customer buys anything from you because that's a level of expectancy. I call it a minimum level of CX, and that is very much related to the economy, how fast it is developing. Because first was access to the normal product. Now
mm,
product is available, service is available. You expect a better experience. You want to be treated that way. It becomes very, very important, especially space you are in, right? Avaya and all that. You make that communication happen. Now, AI is predominant everywhere. Where we are talking about it is I'll talk more from the West world is, do I have technology enough to understand intent of my customer? Because if I understand the intent, and Badri touched on that, that my call center rep is already equipped with the information about this customer. So that's the first part, but also understand the context in which this person is talking to me, right? A typical example I keep giving is when you float an e-commerce site, normal intent of an e-commerce site is targeted towards selling it. For all you know, this person is there to complain about the last order he has not received. So they are trying to find out in order history, where do I go and complain? Now, the longer it takes in complaining, most probably you're going to lose this customer because If he can complain, then at least the experience is better, right? So we call it intent, and that is where AI, ML, everything becomes important. And the challenge of that part, and still it is not solved, we are all working on it, is when enterprises talk of understanding customer, they talk of customer data from their order, from their customer information, address, location, the registration form that they have filed, or they know it from their CRM system. Sometimes they haven't even connected these systems, but best of the organizations probably have connected this. So they understand about this customer from their existing data, from an enterprise data, what we call it. But the experience is built online. So if you're browsing my channel, if you are on my app, that's where my context comes from. And most of the organizations don't collect experience data. Now, until you marry this enterprise data with the experience data, you cannot take it to the next level. Obviously, different geographies are at different maturity level. But that's where AI, ML becomes very, very important because we can put this data. Experience data comes in petabytes per second. That's where cloud becomes important because we have to store it. Easier example,
Yes.
normally you will take Google Analytics. Everybody would have Google Analytics tags or Adobe Analytics, or one of those analytics tools that you omniture or whatever, something they will be using optimizely. They use those dashboards. They don't encache that data because that defines the journey of your customer, and you can always understand when customer took this kind of journey, they got dropped somewhere. So what do I do about improving that part, because experience would have gone wrong somewhere. So in short, everything kind of is interconnected. I think call center takes a lot of load of it, because finally when you are frustrated you call somebody. But if your experiences are better, and they will only become better when you marry a enterprise data with the experience data, because experience data resides somewhere else and enterprise data somewhere else. So bring that together and then apply AI on it, and you would always have a better experience for your customer. It's very easy to say this in a talk, it's very difficult to
Yeah.
achieve. A lot of technology comes behind that, but that's what we are working on. A lot of our customers are going into that direction. Yeah, hope that
Yeah.
helps.
No, that thanks. I think very good insight, Naresh, because you rightly said, if the process is not smooth, the load automatically comes on customer service.
Yeah.
Whether it is a call center, so you need to keep finding out those gaps, process gaps, all the customer touch points, get the context, analyze. That is where the analytics comes in. And if thing is broken somewhere, the pressure always comes on the front end, whether it is a field force, customer service, all of them. So I think that is a very insightful thought. I mean, working in this, most of our customers use this. We realize that, and suddenly, there's a huge surge of load on contact center, and they need to find out why this has happened. And you'll
Yeah.
realize that, somewhere there was a logistics problem. Deliveries were not happening for 2 days, or some billing system had an issue. So
Yeah.
it takes 2, 3 days. So analysis plays a very important role.
And the
Yeah.
best part of that is you go to their e-commerce site, they would still be pushing 10% discount on your next purchase. Well, I'm kicked off with your last selling itself. Now you want a 10% discount also. So I'm saying understanding that intent becomes very, very important. I mean,
Very true.
channels nowadays,
Mm.
customers don't use the channel which you have intended it to make for. They might call your call center to place an order, and they might
Yeah.
use your e-commerce channel to raise and complain. So, so that's why we call it. Unless you think in that way, it will be very difficult to synchronize all this. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. I think we have Mohit. Mr. Mohit is there. I cannot see him. I'll go to Smarak. Yeah. Because, yeah, Mohit is there. I think coming from an ed tech background, Vedantu, I think again there's a little bit different domain. A lot of students, teachers you have to enroll, a lot of customer touch points, students downloading the mobile app. You know, a lot of information is collected, as Mr. Naresh said. Tons of petabytes of data, probably stored in your data centers or on cloud. If you can, uh, tell us something about how you use analytics to measure customer experience, because unless you measure what is working, not working, how do you improvise? So your thoughts on customer experience and use of the customer experience and these aspects, what works, what doesn't work, if you can share some thoughts over there.
Sure. I think thanks, Bhavesh, and
Yeah.
very interesting kind of comments from my fellow panelists. I think really connected a lot with what Naresh was saying, right? I think on kind of measuring the customer experience and number of touch points. So for us, I mean, before I kind of go ahead, so obviously I've kind of spent
Mm.
about 20-21 years in the industry in different domains, primarily in process excellence kind of initiatives and digital transformation initiatives. But what I see of last few years is that the customer experience is been gaining traction quite a lot. I think Naresh also talked about a bit on how do you kind of has the customer expectations moved from, let's say, first uh, receiving the best prices, receiving the best kind of possible products and services, to now saying, because these are the things which are no more a moat for any of the companies. So it's mostly now on the move to kind of experience as to how good an experience can you give to your customers. For us at Vedantu, we are one of the largest kind of tech live online classes in the K-12 segment, which is kindergarten to class 12. And our customer base is students, primarily students and parents. And of course, we kind of want to make a mark and have improvement in every of these students. So their expectations are very different because they spend right from few weeks, few months to few years with us in terms of their journey over the course of their school time, right? So we have to really think about what are the different touch points, right from when we start to reach out to them, they come to our website or they download our apps, to kind of selling them the product, explaining them what the ed tech is about. It's still kind of a relatively newer kind of a domain for everybody in India. So kind of explaining them, kind of onboarding them. Now of course pandemic has taught all the students to attend online classes and all, but we have our own platform which we use, which we call as a wave platform, which is a proprietary Vedantu developed platform, which where we kind of deliver these online classes. It's highly engaging and all of that stuff, and it's primarily focused in kind of bringing that experience in an online class, which you generally don't get, let's say, on let's say a meeting like a Google Meet or something, right? I mean, because those are like very different. I mean, even here, if I see. Let's say only like 10% of the people will have their cameras or something open, rest of them kind of obviously close, and that's very typical behavior for students as well, right? So how do you even kind of control it, because you need to kind of ensure that the student is paying attention, doing all of that, right? So defining all these touch points, what do we want the customer, in our case for a student, to do across these touch points become important, and how do you actually measure it, right? I think measurement, again, Naresh talked about the measurement of experience at every different level, right from your sales experience to your online class experience to somebody then calling for, let's say, a contact center for having some kind of a tech issue, or kind of it could be a payment issue, it could be any kind of different things, or even a compliment that they want to give, right? So all of these things become a different touch point for us, and what we have done is we have defined this journey as to what we would want our students to experience. And when you define that experience, we also kind of define what are some of these input metrics that we should have at each of these touch points, and what do we need to do to kind of get to these kind of touch points, whether it is a process, whether it is a technology, whether it is our people who need to be trained in certain ways and forms. So all of these things, I mean, people, process, product, become the different pillars of kind of landing this overall experience, right? So that is where we go, and obviously analytics is used extremely um, kind of deeply in kind of, you mentioned, Bhavesh, you talked about some AI ML models in the past, you were asking a question. So and understanding that intent, with Naresh kind of brought out as to what does the student needs to talk to us, what would be on their mind, kind of trying to understand that more and more deeply, and then kind of going back to them and having a very contextual conversation, right? Because when you have, let's say, products like you're talking about Avaya, or I mean there are also a number of other products. These products help you do the conversation. Technology is extremely important, but what to talk is something that can only be given through your data. And that's where kind of having these kind of reports, having these kind of notifications to the agents who are talking to the salespeople, who are talking to the account managers, who are talking anybody, whether it's an outbound call or an inbound call or an email or a bot or any kind of matter that thing, it needs to be kind of very curated kind of a conversation. So that is where these three things should come in place, and then you kind of measure that. I mean, I think when Badri was presenting, he talked about, let's say, taking a feedback at the end of the conversation. Those kind of things that also kind of come in. So you kind of obviously continue to learn and continue to improve that experience over a period of time. I mean, there are so many things that are kind of a part of this, and I think it's very interesting times we are living in because we get to innovate with all these things.
Yeah, thanks, Mohit. I have maybe not one, but two questions to you, follow up. See,
Yeah,
because I think in this last 2 years pandemic, I think edtech along with healthcare has been two industries which have been really, really growing.
yeah,
Everybody is doing online and everybody has a personal experience also, right? We all have kids doing online classes. And one thing I think keeping them engaged had always been a challenge. I'm not sure, companies like y'all, what y'all are trying to do it because most of them I've seen, even our kids, they log in and because they know when the attendance is going to start, they switch off the video and God knows what is happening. You know,
yeah.
so while that is the schools, but I mean, from Vedantu or some edtech companies, are they doing something different? Is what just I wanted to know.
Yeah, so I think so. We do multiple different things. One, we focus a lot on the engagement, right? So as I said, so we have this proprietary platform, a Wave platform, which by default doesn't allow the students to turn off the camera. So that's point number one. So the
Uh-huh.
teacher has kind of an admin kind of capabilities where, so it's not like everybody's camera is on the screen all the time, because primarily focus is on the content that is being taught, right? I mean, what the teacher is kind of making notes or trying to do on the platform. But at the same time, we have built in very interesting and innovative ways of the way, let's say, an actual class would be done. So for example, we have like hotspots where students can answer, and we have like a fastest finger first where we show kind of results in every few minutes as to how students are getting engaged. We are kind of motivating the students in terms of giving them a star shower. If it is Diwali, there is a dhol which kind of comes in. So all these things, because it's our proprietary platform, we are able to bring in these kind of newer things. If it's a new year, something else starts to come in, and all of those things. So the platform itself becomes very engaging. And then of
Yeah.
course we take pride in our content that we kind of have designed in a way that it is extremely engaging. And off and on, the teacher keeps bringing any student online, so that camera particularly kind of turns on automatically, and they can kind of then talk to that particular thing. We also have like a chat window, but we moderate that kind of a chat window because obviously we there are, I mean, it's students, and we need to kind of control behaviors and all of those kind of things as well. But we are able to moderate that on the runtime. Plus we are also kind of experimenting with a two teacher model where basically for every, let's say, x number of students, we have a class teacher who's constantly engaging with them, like you mentioned about the room and all that, right? It's something similar to that, where they can ask their doubts. They can kind of say that I'm not able to understand this slide, so the teacher who is teaching doesn't need to stop for everybody else. There is a class
Mhm.
teacher who can come in and help the student just clarify that particular thing. So these are various different kind of things we have done in order to kind of build that engagement on the platform.
Yeah, very interesting. So because there are some things, Avaya also, I just want to, I'll be a panelist for a minute if I come to Smarak. So what Avaya has been doing is, to keep, we all know, right? Teachers are going to school. They have been asked to go to school. Children are logging from home. It's a hybrid model. So I think we have been giving that CU 360 model that Badri showed in his slide, we're putting those cameras in classrooms. So teacher log in from there and students can log in from home, and really not use a laptop camera, which is probably not a very high resolution. This is a very, very cost effective. You can put that camera. If some students are there, the students can also see the teacher and the rest of the classroom as well. I think that is working very well, not for edtech companies, but from schools perspective. And that is where, we felt, it is becoming a little bit more and more engaging. But definitely, I think this is the way. I think these companies are edtech companies, and school digitization is a very big thing. It's going to stay for a very, very long time. Thanks,
Yeah,
Mr. Mohit. I think coming
thanks.
to Smirk, Mr. Smirk, I think is a similar industry. I think my question is more or less same. I mean, because before I didn't know about QMath, and I actually had to go to the website, and it's very interesting. It's a company which only provides maths coaching, is what I understand, right? So, if you can share some of the question is same. How do you, how do you excite students to enroll specifically for this? How you are different? what kind of digital transformation solutions you use, to measure the student experience, enrolling teachers, teacher experience, and kind of thing, and make things better. If you can touch upon that. Yes, Mark, I think you're on mute. You'll have to unmute.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, Bhavesh.
Yeah, no problem.
So we are a math company, and we're going to be math company forever. That's the basic foundation of the entire thing.
Mm,
And we are a company who doesn't teach math. We give clues to the kids to the learn math. So that's called Q math, and that's a very unique way of teaching. And it is very, and that is the basic premises through which we grow and keep innovating in that line. Talking about the customer piece, no customer wants to talk to a company, not a single one. They want the service to be seamless, and they want whatever you commit that is delivered. And
mm.
almost all the edtech which I have seen in last 40 odd months being edtech before in telecom, customer wants to talk to us when there is a failure point. And customer, whenever there is a failure, there is no failure point, they will not talk to us. Second thing, they want us to listen, not talk much.
Mm.
And if I just talk about the edtech scenario, like we just talk, almost all the edtech in the current scheme of things are doing a push sell. Discount is the key. Call, nothing else. And
Okay,
I
okay,
think 90% times the agent who is there as a inside salesperson or in the call center also, they talk a lot. So we have innovated a lot. We've come through a partner who's keep listening to the calls, keep guiding my employees that yes, don't talk much, keep listening. That is the basic thing which you are winning the heart. And also the way we measure it as a satisfaction point of it is NPS. I know almost everybody is going to say NPS hum bhi karte hain. NPS is yeah.
Mm.
NPS is not a score alone. Score is a bullshit thing, I call it. NPS, if you are booking the NPS system, then it makes sense. Because NPS gives a listening tool to you as a management, which and you can define multiple small projects which can be enabling the customer life in a better way. So that's how we have been listening to lot. So what do you do? Listen to the NPS score, the inputs, performance scores, do the data analytics in a very a lot of heavy data, and keep fixing the big, small problem, which is going to be customer happiness index. So that's how we've been growing, and we'll be growing a lot in that area. And I believe that is the way forward for any customer centric company. I think that's a small thing I can talk about.
yeah, no, you're rightly, because we are working with some edtech companies, and you touched upon, agents talking too much, because I know they have invested tons of
Correct.
money in a technology called dialers. It's
Correct.
contact center dialer. So moment somebody downloads the app, you immediately
You're
have to
dead.
call, and then
You're dead.
try to find out why. The student could just be curious, what is this app? I just want to see. But I know a lot of dialing happens, and there are tons of agents doing this kind of dialing work. Not sure where it is most effective, but I think the priority being I want to onboard students, make them into paid students and all. Probably, yeah. So I
So I
think
can I
that,
can proudly
yeah,
tell that the calling
yes,
to listening ratio was which was around 90 to 10, we have come down to 60/40 right now in the last
okay.
6 months time, which is very good. I can say that yes. Is there a scope to improve? The answer is yes. A lot of scope improvement further. Because the more you listen to the customer, and it will be great for the customer point of view also, for the company point of view also.
Okay. Good. So I mean, your business mainly happens through the word of mouth, right? Because if you're not very aggressive, a happy student or a happy parent will say,
Yes, a lot
this
of
is a
word
good
of
thing to
mouth
do.
is the key thing which we are
Yeah.
growing. Definitely,
Okay.
for like any other tech company, we do invest in the performance marketing and all. But the selling is considered selling, not as a like push, push, push. Push is there, and I can't say that 100% push. I can't omit, but yeah,
Mhm.
there is a segment which you are going only the consultative one.
Fine. I think that's it. I had one more question. I think we have 3, 4 minutes, but
Sure.
I think Mr. Naresh is not. If anybody wants to take it, I wanted to talk about this employee collaboration tools, basically. I mean, I touched upon the pandemic, and I think Mr. Muzaffar has not joined back. He's still there. He's devoid of power at his place wherever he is. Uh, so I mean, most of y'all being e-commerce companies or traditional IT companies, a lot of employees have been working from home. How has these collaboration tools been really effective? To help people do business and help serve the customers? Are these collaboration tools effective? Because There are companies like Zoom and all whose revenues have gone up 3 times in the last 2 years, predominantly on this. So, and the traditional communication platforms like the PBXs and all, which were in office, are now kind of going down. So, what is happening? I mean, challenges of shifting employees to home, enabling the work from anywhere. I leave it. I'll keep it open. Anybody wants to take that question can take it. Yeah,
I think, Bhavesh, it's more of a necessity now, right? I mean, and also
yeah,
a great opportunity, I would say. See, one, when the pandemic started, there was a force to move people to home. And of course, I mean, now hopefully we are kind of moving towards an endemic, and a lot of companies are kind of trying to work out a hybrid model and things like that, right? But the opportunity, if you see, especially on the tech side and on the talent side, is that now you have access to a lot broader base of people who could work from anywhere using these collaboration tools, right? I think so that is one thing that I definitely see happening, because people are recruiting from anywhere. I mean, that location constraint has kind of gone. So I think that is one point. And of course, I think over a call and things like that, I still feel that that personal touch sometimes seems to miss, and you really want to have those kind of coffee conversations and things
yes,
like that, right? But I think in the future it will be a bit of a hybrid model where largely it could still be online, and there could be some meets on a very regular basis. It could be monthly, quarterly. I mean, depending on how the companies and things pan out. But yeah, I think that's my take on it.
So
yeah,
Bhavesh, to my take is that whichever process can be automate, like design in such a way which can be like machine system or the factory system that can be go all the way to the automation or online regime. But wherever you feel like brain is required and the like data analytics, even if you talk a lot, but if you don't design in the board as such, it will not give any result because the flow chart and all has to be there. So that
yeah,
type of things is going to be span out in next 1 or 2 years down the line.
So,
yeah, yeah,
see, from my point of view, so see, I would tell you that during this, from the start of the pandemic, uh, I think during the pandemic was when I actually moved companies. Okay. So, but coming from a function where I kind of need to work with several third party vendors, I've come to know from them that a lot of them, okay, specifically service oriented industries and certain organizations which are a hybrid of service and product, they feel that they have moved to a zone where they actually feel that their productivity is very high when they work from home. And these are industries where probably 5 years down the line, or even pre-pandemic 3 years down the line, they never even thought that it's possible to work full-fledged when they work from home. And also I worked in an organization before shifting where generally people used to travel a lot, and also the office premises was quite far away from the city in every of its location. And I think uh, having forced people to move into online collaboration actually brought down the expenses for the organization. It also made things much easier, and that is not just within the country, but between geographies. People started conducting effective workshops, like how Smarak was mentioning. At times it's better to have a physical meeting. Well, that's true. I think it's made people forcefully adapt to virtual meetings across geographies and still make it effective. So these are things which has actually helped companies cut down on cost, and at the same time forcefully make people adapt to virtual ways of working and still be productive. So this is something which probably has been forced onto people, and I think it's working as well.
yeah. Good. Mr. Naresh, any points you want to add on this? Naresh and Sandeep?
So I think I can you hear me?
I think, Yeah, you got dropped off, I think, in between. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we were talking about, collaboration tools, employees moving to home last 2 years. And, of course, we spend, so if I tell my own experience, I just want to make one point, as a panelist, if I'm, so within sales, I do sales engineering. So number one, I think all account managers, sales people are complaining, if they are not able to meet customers, how am I going to do business? Number two, they have got COVID as an excuse if business doesn't happen. So it's very easy to do that. Number three, everybody is sitting hours in front of your laptop, like you use Avaya Spaces or some any kind of collaboration tool. So earlier, I mean, from a sales, we could do workshops, we could meet customers, spend 3 4 hours with them. Now I think that attention span has shrunk. It's very difficult to spend more than half an hour or maximum 1 hour, and you have to do smaller repeated sessions. So these are the change in the behavior business, is what I see. That is what I was kind of trying to ask you.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
one more thing also happened, that we are going from meeting to meeting, because even if the meeting finish like completes early, we need to wait for another half an hour or 20 minutes before you can join the next meeting.
Yeah.
So it is, and the working time is starting from the 9 a.m. in the morning to maybe 9 p.m. in the night, or maybe more than that. So that culture of which Siddharth also touched upon some time back, yes, like the things which can be done sometime in half or 10 minutes. Many times it takes 20 minutes also, or 1 hour maybe.
Mm.
But it has helped us a lot in terms of the work, like working from home and all, like being safe in the in this environment and all. But different different perspective of different people altogether.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. Cost has come down. What Siddharth said is
Yeah.
right. Travel
Yeah.
cost has come down. I
Yeah.
think office costs have come down, everything, but there is an impact somewhere else. It is always happening. Yeah.
Well, to
So
be
Bhavesh,
honest, for someone who's worked asynchronous, even if not remote, asynchronously for longest period of time, and there have been people like myself before as well, and right now it has probably become easier. I think that's how I would put it, rather than saying things have become difficult for the other set of people. It has become a lot more easier for the asynchronous work to happen. I mean, look, asynchronous can happen even if it is in co-location, even if it is in office location, and I think that's a more efficient ways of working. And all the technologies and tools, including pieces of puzzle like Avaya Spaces, or
Yeah.
anything else for that matter, are all enablers in that direction. And it's a change which could probably be permanent in many ways, where even if you don't do it, you need to be ready to work asynchronously, is a thing of the future and will remain with us. And many of us, people like me, I mean, in spite of being in sales, let me tell you, I'm thankful for what it has evolved into.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
so Bhavesh, I think I agree with how Siddharth was saying, right? It will become hybrid. Schools will go there. They will probably meet. If you ask my son, he'll be like, I'm more efficient when I'm for learning. I'm more efficient online. Now, for socializing, I'll go to the school. That is not a problem. So probably he'll go one day and socialize and then come back. But to solve exact, salesman problem, that is why Mr. Zuckerberg is working. You will go to metaverse. You will
Yeah.
meet people. I am a very strong believer of technology. Maybe because my bread and butter comes from technology. But some of the things which we don't believe will become real for 5 years, 7 years. Largely, those are the breakthrough technologies where a lot of other people have been able to work, and that's where I think India one day will go to. We will innovate far more than repeat better. So the investment that they have in metaverse, I mean, we all honestly, I think 90% believe it will not come to life, because I personally have seen the birth and death of Second Life. I don't know how many of you remember there was thing called Second Life, where you used to have avatar and a virtual world. But this time it will be different because the timing is right. Like Bhavesh, you said, you will go to a virtual world, try to meet people. It will not be in today's form. In 3 years, technology will evolve. I strongly believe it will happen. Maybe Mohit will be conducting more of the virtual sessions in Meta. So I don't know. I mean, but I do believe it. I don't know the shape of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think, yeah, hearing
If
dangerous
I
things
remember
about
correctly, I
metaverse.
think Avaya did have a product way back. I think I've used that in one of the executive sessions that I was doing back in 2013, 14, where there used to be an avatar. I mean, I could design my own avatar, enter. There used to be rooms where
Yeah,
you could go. I think that was a very, I mean, it was obviously, I'm talking about 7 years back, but it was a pretty good tool that I remember that I used.
So Mohit, I feel a lot of this is timing. When things come even before the market is ready for it, they die. I mean, it has happened to every technology. Even
Yeah,
e-commerce and all that, there were much stronger players before Amazon, but the timing was right.
yeah.
And I think now market is kind of ready, right? I mean, Chandler is saying, I'll not go to office. I'm not getting impacted. So,
Yeah.
yeah, good. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Once again, I think we are at the end of the hour. Uh, on that note, I think Shamin, I'll go back to you. I think we have
Right.
got good insights from all the panelists. I think one or two people could have to drop off if something happened. Unfortunate, no
Correct.
problem. Over to you, Shamin.
Thank you so much, Bhavesh. Do we have any questions for our speakers? You can unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and put your questions forward. No questions in the chat as well? Okay, no problem. We'll go ahead. On this closing note, I would like to thank our partner Avaya India and all our thought leaders for taking out the time from their busy schedules to be here with us. We really appreciate it. Also, thank you to our lovely audience. We appreciate you being here today with us. I hope all of you had a great interactive session with our speakers. We shall be updating the video link on our website shortly and requesting you all to respond to our feedback forms, which will be shared with you. The feedback also mentions about a one-on-one virtual brainstorm session with Avaya, and we would be glad to connect you with them. Kindly follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for our webinar and event updates. Thanking everybody once again. It was so nice to have all of you here. Uh, Take care, stay safe, and bye bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye,
Thank
Thank
you.
everybody.
you.
Bye.